CataractCoach.com, podcast series, episode number 119 with Dr. Jennifer Loh, mastering surgery and business to build your practice and your brand. Welcome back to our Cataract Coach podcast. Today, I've got a very special guest, Dr. Jennifer Loh, who you've seen on the podium so many times. You see her name in all the articles, all the trade journals. You learn a lot from her. She gives great lectures, and she has done amazing things. I've watched her career since you were a senior resident in 2011. And now I cannot believe what a superstar you are. So welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much. It's a real honor to be part of this. I've also watched your amazing podcast and Cataract Coach videos, and I feel honored to be included. Thank you.
Oh, for sure. Now, give us your kind of background. How did you get interested in ophthalmology? I know you went to Indiana University, which is a great med school. It's actually, I think it's probably the biggest med school in the U.S. in terms of class size. It's a big school.
Yes, you're right. It's one of the bigger schools because it's actually the only medical school in the state, at least when I was there. And I think that's still the case, actually. So yeah, so it draws from the entire state and obviously nationally as well. And so it was an honor to be there. There's actually 6 campuses for the first 2 years, and then it feeds into the downtown Indianapolis for the last 2 clinical years. So yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
Great. And then you stayed there for residency in ophthalmology. How did you get interested in ophthalmology as a med student?
Well, that's a good question. So ironically, I don't have any family members or relatives that are in ophthalmology. My father is a physician, but was in a different specialty in anesthesia. So I really knew nothing about ophthalmology. But going through med school, I actually overheard a co-student of mine talking about what a great field ophthalmology was.
Right.
And of course, as you know, there's not a lot of exposure to ophthalmology in medical school unless you're proactive about it, right? So I'd heard some good things. I was always interested in doing a surgical specialty that intrigued me. And when I went to apply for that 3rd-year elective surgical rotation, I applied for ophthalmology, but I didn't get it.
Oh.
So it's probably a popular one. I think everyone wants it, right? So I got assigned to vascular surgery. So not quite what I was wanting, but you know what? It was actually a great experience. So I learned a lot, but the interest still persisted. So I met with some of the ophthalmology residents when I had some free time, got to know some of the professors and the attendings. And then when 4th year was coming around, then you could actually pick your electives and you weren't assigned one. So then I proactively, my first elective rotation, first month of 4th year, I did an ophthalmology rotation, fell in love with it. Got to do research. And one of my mentors, who's actually retiring this year, Dr. Rudy Chiwa Young, he was a professor there for many years, even before I was a student. And again, he's just retiring. He was a true inspiration to me, just the way he cared for his patients. He was, I would follow him around in his office and just seeing those patients post-op day 1 from cataract surgery and how happy they were really sealed the deal for me. And just seeing the technology he used and the way he was able to connect with patients. And I saw, like many of us do that probably enter this field, that it was a specialty that allowed me to do surgery, but have overall very positive results and patients who actually wanted the surgery, right? I realized, no one really wants their appendectomy. It's not really something they're like looking forward to or planning for, but people were coming in truly excited about their surgery. And then obviously excited even as early as day 1. So seeing the difference that made in patients' lives and just the ability to mix clinic with surgery, that really interested me.
For sure. No, I actually know Rudy Young. What a great guy. So energetic.
Yeah. Love him. I'm so happy
to important to have mentors like that. And now, what the funny part is, you're returning the favor. Now you're a mentor to so many.
I hope. I try. Thank you.
No, I think you were involved very recently, a few years ago, starting that Larkin Community Hospital residency program in ophthalmology. From scratch, you and a group of others started a complete ophthalmology residency.
Yes, that was a huge deal. I was lucky. I sort of fell into it, honestly. Dr. Matt Kay, who you may know, he's a neuro-ophthalmologist. He was connected with some of the residents who were previously at another center. And when things didn't go so well, he was able to take over with them. And he recruited myself because he knew me from a former job, and recruited Bill and several other community doctors. And we turned it into a community program. And you're absolutely right. We really built it from the ground up. And I have to give credit to actually one of the senior residents at that time, Dr. Austin Bach, who at the time you could tell he was a superstar, and he certainly has shown himself to be a superstar. He was so industrious and innovative, and helped really get the program started with our help. And it was a great experience. I never had the chance to teach in surgery before.
Right.
And I thought that was, as you know, I've learned from you as well, how rewarding that can be. It can also be scary. So I learned a lot about myself, surgically as well as mentally and emotionally. And I think but it just it was really wonderful to teach other doctors and still getting to know them, you know, over the years. It really creates a huge bond.
Oh, that is for sure. And in fact, one thing I'm sure you realize, and you can tell about it, the virtues, doing resident cases, teaching residents makes you a much better surgeon, because now you can recognize things very early and you can rescue just about anything.
Yeah, that's very true. It's very true. Yes, there's nothing like helping someone fix their mistakes, and you just see it all. You're absolutely right.
Well, I did surgery on an ophthalmologist a few years ago, out of state. He came in. I said, why'd you come out of state to see me? He says, well, I know you teach residents a lot. And he says, just in that rare 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000 chance things go south, I know you can rescue it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. He says, and he said to me, he said, well, in your private practice, what percent capsule breakage do you have in the last 1,000 cases? I said, oh, it's really tiny. I said, what about with the residents? I said, I deal with a broken capsule every week.
Very true. Yeah, there's nothing like pulling out that protractor every week. It keeps your skills honed.
Right. Well, actually, it's funny. I did an IOL exchange this week on a patient who had a prior YAG capsule, to be a big, generous YAG. And yeah, you had to do a beautiful vitrectomy. And so I'm like, I'm really good at doing a beautiful vitrectomy because of all those other things.
No, it's true. And it helps you think outside the box. And it, like they always say, once you can teach something, you really, really know the skill. And it was a good feeling to give back to.
Now, how many residents do you take a year in that program?
There's 3 per year currently.
So
yeah, and it's really grown. 12, yes. And I have to say, I almost didn't think it was possible in the beginning, and it's completely grown. They've actually acquired 2 VAs in their program. I mean, they've really launched, and every year when I help out with the residency interviews, I'm so impressed how the high level quality applicants coming through, really wanting this program. And it's huge because they get a really good mix of community experience and VA. So I think they see the real world, as well as more of an academic situation, institutional system like the VA, and they're getting a lot of surgical numbers. But one thing that really impresses me about their program is how appreciative they all are. And I'm really impressed by that. I don't know if I was as appreciative as a resident. You know, I think that they definitely bring a maturity that I hadn't seen before.
Well, I'm sure you can see it now. Now that you're 14 years out of your residency, out of your training, the newer generation is that's quite impressive. Really impressive. I mean, it's a different generation, obviously. They pick things up so fast. I mean, it's why the CataractCoach videos have grown in popularity, is because this is the generation that's like, all right, show me a 5-minute video, and then I'll learn it.
100%. Amazing. I know. I wish I'd had your podcast and your CataractCoach when I was in training. I mean, it's just so invaluable to see all of these videos. And I'm very impressed how you're able to put a video out every day. I don't know how you do it. It's amazing.
It's either very passionate or very crazy, or a combination of both.
And you don't sleep. You must not sleep. That's what I've decided.
It's like a baby, but I do wake up very early. It's just about 6:30 in the morning here in LA. So I obviously like very early mornings too. But doing that residency is not so simple, because it's not just like, oh yeah, just stay with me for 4 years and I'll just teach you. No. It's like very regimented, very programmed. There's a specific, to be an accredited residency, it is not easy.
No, you're exactly right. It's a lot of work, and you have to get so many numbers for your students and your residents and lectures, and it's a lot. I agree, but I can't take that much credit. I mean, Dr. K and some of the other attendings are definitely really steering the ship now, but they've done a great job. It's really like a miracle.
Yeah, obviously, it's always a big group effort. But so you've also done other things for leadership and also mentorship in Aspen. Tell us about, what is Aspen? What does it stand for, and what was your involvement in all this?
Yeah, great. Thanks for asking. Yeah, so Aspen's was actually an idea that was generated in around 2014, 2015. And I have to say it was sort of because I was seeing several groups being formed. There was actually a group formed that was at that time an all male group called Cedars, and that my husband was part of. And I saw the collegiality that they all had and how they supported each other. I was really impressed by that. They supported each other by, uh, not only professionally, but personally. They would talk about surgical cases, how to better their practice.
Right.
And I thought that was amazing. I thought, wow, like we need that. We need that as a society. Of course, I was thinking more female gender because there already was a male version. And I thought, why can't we do that as a female-led group? And so I, spoke to several like very prominent female leaders like Sherry Rowan, Dee Stevenson, Lisa Fulner, Alice Epitropoulos. I can't even name them all. Honestly, there were so many of them. I was very fortunate to know them. And, we just decided, why don't we formalize it? Of course, there have been groups before that were sort of more informal.
Right.
And they had existed, but I thought, if the men can do it, let's try and create our own version, like a sisterhood, so to speak, to help ourselves and promote ourselves professionally in a more formalized fashion. So Sherry Rowan and Alice Epitropoulos and I, we took the lead initially those first few months to get everything set up logistically. And really, the idea was really to have fun too, right? It wasn't all about work. I saw how the Cedars group, they had a lot of fun too. They really enjoyed their profession and their brotherhood, so to speak. So I thought that would be wonderful. And we created it. We had our first meeting actually in Las Vegas to commemorate that concept of working hard, but also having fun and being a group. And then from there it expanded. And then we eventually decided to join with the Cedars group to make it a sisterhood and a brotherhood. And it's gone from there. And now we have an annual meeting every year. And there's been papers published, a dry eye protocol has been published by some of the members. And it's been great. I mean, there's been so much collegiality, but also family feeling and professional growth. And I hope that others can, follow in our footsteps. And we're always looking for new members as well.
Well, I don't know. To be very frank, I've asked about joining and I've been like absolutely denied. So just to be very frank,
well, I will put your name in now that I know you want to join.
I'm good. I was never part of the cool club. So,
well, you're very cool. You're like the leader of cool.
Right. No, it's all ophthalmologists, you and me included, are dorks. That's just how we are.
Well, you may be onto something.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing ophthalmology. All right, come on.
That's probably true. But in our own minds, we can think we're cool, right?
Exactly. I'm a legend in my own mind. I tell myself every day.
That's what I tell myself.
You also did something very amazing, which is you started a practice from scratch. You hung a shingle, literally, and started from zero, and now you've grown it to like a very large practice with multiple other surgeons. Tell me about this amazing. How did you start? Were you scared? Were you nervous about it? And how did you grow so well?
Well, thank you. Well, of course, although it sort of was by myself, I have to give credit to all my family, my friends, colleagues, supporters. No man or woman is an island, as they say, and I certainly couldn't have done it completely alone. The idea was generated really because I was working in a very nice practice up in Fort Lauderdale. I was happy there, but I, for personal reasons, wanted to move further south to Miami. And I knew that long term, wanting to start a family, that the commute, I wouldn't be able to handle like an hour and a half commute.
Sure.
Each way, just for me on a personal level, that wasn't something I could sustain. And I looked around initially for jobs, of course, met many great people. There were great practice options, but nothing was really quite right, especially the location. So I decided, why not take a chance on myself, which maybe doesn't seem that revolutionary, just saying it out loud, but in my mind, I had never thought of it that way. It just seemed the obvious to work for someone and join something that was safe. And starting a practice didn't seem safe at all. But I also realized that luckily, as ophthalmologists, as physicians, we're very blessed to have a solid skill set. So even if our business idea doesn't work out, we have something else we can do, right? So I figured if I couldn't actually make the practice work, I could get a job somewhere else, right? So I didn't think it'd be the end of the world if I failed. And again, instead of investing in someone else, why not invest or take a chance on myself?
Yeah.
Um, that was how I, thought about it and made the decision. Of course, I have to give so much credit to my husband, Bill Trowler. He was not my husband at the time, but we were obviously moving that direction. He, was the voice of reason, walked me back from many a cliff as I had
Right.
moments of, how am I going to make payroll and this is going to work. So having that mentor, having that friend, confidant, spouse was invaluable. My parents, of course, and all my friends, like you, the Cedars Aspens group, everyone cheering me on, and just perseverance. But it's the first few years can be a little scary, a little daunting, and just like any business, though, right? I think a lot of in medicine, you're not really taught business necessarily. And so just sort of we're used to being successful, right? As physicians and ophthalmologists, we're used to having milestones, achieving them at all times. And I think the business mindset's a little different, like learning to possibly fail. And but one thing we're good at as physicians is delayed gratification, right? So
Right.
having that delayed gratification of waiting for years and years to see the practice grow was helpful. I do also have to say, one, it is my own practice, but I do want to acknowledge that I joined a large network of ophthalmologists in the South Florida area, and that's been really helpful. I run the day-to-day operations, and get my own patients, hire my own staff, set my own hours, find my own office space. But I do have this help, kind of this group mentality where it's all physician owned, but we do have a centralized billing office and
Nice.
some sort of like corporate oversight, which is helpful, like HR. We can offer insurance. We have a professional, high level IT team. So that that was sort of like a hybrid practice, and I do encourage anyone who has opportunity to look into it, because it's certainly helped me save a lot of time and anxiety, because they have bring their expertise, right, to the table, and things that we can't know everything as ophthalmologists and business people. So having that help really helped a lot. And again, having the guidance of Bill and other colleagues to proactively grow the practice, again, delay that gratification, add more doctors, get more space. And it's been a really, really cool journey, and I've really enjoyed it.
Well, that's awesome. Now,
And thank
I
you
got
for
to ask
asking.
the obvious question. So your husband, Bill Trattler, obviously a well-known ophthalmologist as well. We've had him on the podcast previously. Why not just join him in practice? Wouldn't that be easier?
Well, no, that's a good point. It would have maybe been easier. I agree. Well, I have to say that, he's part of a big group that has been long established, and to be honest, they didn't really have an opening at the time.
Mm.
So and they didn't have an opening, but I also didn't want to be that person, right, who was joining her significant other's practice. Not that that's a bad thing. I mean, many people do it, and I certainly respect it. And it would be fun at times. I think it'd be fun to work together. But I didn't want to be viewed differently, and from the other doctors in that group. And I also thought, maybe it's better to keep it separate, right? We're already together so much, him and I, at like conferences, and of course at home, we're always talking about ophthalmology. So it's nice to have a little bit of separation, and not, take everything from work to home, and have a little bit of separation. And I think it's been good. It's helped me, keep more of my own identity. And, if I think it just works. At first, it's like, oh, maybe we should be together, but I think in the end, it's been a better thing to be separate. We're close by. We're only 10 minutes away. And the fun thing is we do get to operate on the same day at the same surgery center.
Oh,
So
cool.
that's really fun. That took a while to get that worked out, but we finally got block time on the same day. And that's been fun. So we see each other in passing, and pre-op and PACU, we jump in and see each other's cases. And so that one day a week has been fun. And I think it's nice having some separation otherwise.
I like that. I
Then I
like
get to be the boss.
that. Well, I
So,
also like how you basically alluded to that your practice kind of evolves. The practice you have today is not the practice you started with. It keeps evolving. Your schedules change. It takes time to get it like right.
yes, it 100% does. I think that's one thing I've learned, and I'm sure you might have some pearls of wisdom as well, but I've learned that like you're always growing and changing,
Yeah.
whether as a person or an ophthalmologist. I remember like being a third year resident, or I guess they call it PGY4 now, like you're almost done, you're
Yeah.
graduating, and thinking that I was just going to magically know it all and just instantly be successful.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And and I wasn't cocky about it. I just thought that's how life worked. Like once you graduated, you just knew everything and everything was going to be smooth. And obviously, that's not the case. So it's still I don't know what someone joked recently. Are we like PGY 20s or PGY 30s at this point in life? We're always learning. And but I think you're right. The practice evolves. Your mindset with your patients change too. I definitely appreciate patients more. I mean, I've always cared about patients,
Yeah.
but it's great seeing patients now. After you see patients over and over again through the years, you definitely have a different mindset and respect for medicine than maybe in the early years, when you're just getting to start your practice.
Right. During training, we don't have as much continuity. You may see the
Mhm.
patient once or twice, and then the next day you don't see them again. And even though they have a chronic condition that needs, let's say, lifelong treatment, you may not have them. But you're in practice, you can see the same patient and help them for 10 years or more.
Right. Exactly. And they see you grow too. They see you have a family, they see you through the years, and it does create a bond. I can start to sort of respect and understand how the older physicians, they have a sense of fulfillment because I think they've gone through that journey. And so I
Yeah.
think I'm starting to see that a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of foolish things we say in our senior year of residency, when I was in my last month of residency, I told myself, I said, "Wow, I can't wait till I'm in private practice because it'll be so much easier." Which is so crazy to even think that. It's like so much harder. It's not residency is like a walk in the park.
I know. Oh my gosh, that's like we must be connected because I like literally think I said the same thing. And I don't know. There's a retina specialist. He was at the VA. At the time, I thought he was older, but he was probably just like 5 years older than me.
Right?
Daryl Kurz, and he overheard me say that, like almost word for word what you said, and
Uh,
he just like busted out laughing. And I was like, "Why is he laughing at me?" But I realize now like I totally get it now. Like I was so confident, like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, saying that like
right.
everything is going to be easy, and now I realize why he laughed. So I think about that all the time.
Yeah. I mean, the challenge, like when you're a senior resident, your challenge, the biggest challenge you have is like, okay, I got a very difficult case coming up. I got to prepare
Right.
for this very complicated surgery. And then now you go into practice, and your biggest challenge is, how do I get the patient in the door?
Oh, right. How do I make them happy? How do I make my staff
Right.
happy? You know,
Right. Oh,
how do I
yeah.
follow all the legal requirements? How do I like handle unhappy patients? I know. How do I pay my taxes?
And all the above. I do also, I really admire that practice model that you have. There's another big city in Houston Eye Group is very, very similar.
Oh, okay.
They've got, I don't know, 50, 60 private ophthalmologists, but they centralize
Wow.
billing, HR, IT,
Mhm.
exactly what you said. And it's worked so well for them. And anyone I talk to who's in that group, just said they love it.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know there was a similar group. That's awesome. I'll have to read more about them. Yeah, it's a great mix, like a hybrid, right? You
Right.
really feel it is your own practice essentially, all physician owned and led, but having some corporate oversight. Like who wants to deal with the contracting with insurances every year, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
that's a more than a full-time job, and it's not our area of expertise. So I think it's
And
it's a great way.
the group power there, and then doing it
Mhm.
all together. I think, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I wish something like that existed in Los Angeles. Maybe we got to like lay the groundwork and all the
Yeah,
free time,
yeah.
all the free time we got.
Right, all the free time you have, in between your podcast and launching a video every day.
Right. I mean, listen, I still got to go. I got to go to work today. I still got to go do LASIK. This is a
Oh
busy
my
day for me.
gosh. Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, of
Wow.
course.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense. I guess you have to go do, yeah, I know. You must be a masterful video editor, by the way. I think of you when I'm trying to edit videos with
I'm really bad.
iMovie, and it's
Um,
so hard. I'm like, man, they must do this in a split second.
well, I don't use iMovie, so I think
Okay.
I use a much more powerful one that's totally free called
Oh,
Shot.
I need to.
SHOTCUT Shotcut. It's available on Mac, PC, Linux,
Oh,
on any device. You can just Google it and download it for free. It's
shortcut.
hard to
Okay.
use. It's hard to use initially,
I'm
but
writing
then
this
once you figure it out,
down.
it's really powerful. Yeah, Shotcut, SHOTCUT. And then the
Okay.
nice part is I've got so many like templates and macros already done. Like for this podcast, I
Mm.
recorded 3 different camera angles. And so I could just like for
Oh,
one angle that I use, like the main camera on me, I just hit click and it's all done, formatted. My text is on it. It's done.
wow. That's
So yeah,
wonderful.
I've
Okay.
moved it. And mind you, I've had a lot of practice. I mean, I've 2,600 videos in, so I've done this a lot. But that's what I
Yeah.
tend to use. Yeah, it's a neat program. It's just not. Initially, it's a little daunting. It's not as graphic interface looking or easy as iMovie, but
Okay.
it's way more powerful.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look into that. Yeah, as I hone my video editing skills. But
Well, I mean, yet another skill that we don't learn in our training that you end up needing.
very
You're
true.
going to be
I
on the
know.
podium speaking. Well, no one taught you how to give a public presentation. No one taught you how to edit the surgical video for it. No one taught you any of this. You just got to learn.
Right. Right. No, everything. We're always students. And I know there's so many things to learn all the time.
Well, you and I have one other thing in common, which is we both finished residency, didn't do a fellowship, and now we're doing the fellowship of the real world, and we keep learning. So when I was with my
Yeah.
residents, I would teach them how to do DSEC, DMEC, and they're like, "Did you do cornea fellowship?" I said, "No." I said, "But by the way, back then, if I did one cornea fellowship, they didn't have DSEC or DMEC. There was no lamellar transplantation back then. You still have to learn on your own." So similarly,
Yeah.
like now, you're a total expert on the MIGS glaucoma stuff. But you don't need to do a fellowship in glaucoma for this. You just need to commit to learning.
Yeah. No, that's very true. And I'm sure you tell your residents this all the time too. Nothing of what they're learning, like what they're learning now, may be obsolete, or there'll be so many new things in
Right.
5 to 10 years. So you're absolutely right. I mean, I think it's wonderful to be able to do a fellowship, but I didn't do one. Um, and sometimes I do feel sad that I didn't, but like you
Yeah.
said, even if you had done a fellowship, that's one extra year. I mean, in the whole grand scheme of things, there's still so much you have to learn whether you do one or not. And just having that attitude and that pioneering interest to learn is the real key
Right. Plus, I think
to
he was also
success.
different too. Just think of like when I finished residency, which is I'm about 10 years older than you. You finished in 2011. I finished in 2000. So I'm 11 years older.
Okay.
When I finished residency, none of this existed. There was no OCT machine. There was no anti-VEGF. So I had to learn a lot less. In fact, that's why I admire the young generations. The young generations not only learned everything that I did, but they learned all the new stuff that came
Mhm.
in the last 20 years, and they did it in the same 4 years.
It's true. I never thought of that.
So that's a lot more. Like if I was, and it's so much more competitive now. If I was applying for ophthalmology residency now, I'd be doing family practice. There's just no way not.
I know. I don't even know if I'd get into medical school sometimes, I
I,
think,
I
and then
tell you,
I mean, and then I see these, that's what I was mentioning earlier with the residency interviews. I read their CVs and I'm blown away.
right?
Blown away. Exactly right. I'm like, how I would not. I don't even know. You're right. I wouldn't get into, I don't think I'd get into residency. I have to admit that. It's just amazing what they do out even outside of their field. They've all invented apps and written books and I don't know, started GPOs and nonprofits. So
Right? No, it's an amazing group of young surgeons.
it
For,
really is.
for sure. But yeah, I think I really do admire, like you do a lot of stuff with the glaucoma and mix. Tell me more about that. How'd you get so interested in it and how'd you become so good?
Oh, thanks. Well, I think just like you were mentioning, wanting to learn new techniques, realizing that without advancing your skill set and intentionally learning more techniques, you could fall behind. Right.
Right.
So I was lucky to go to all these conferences, hear experts speak on it, watch lots of videos, and then wanted to try it. Luckily was able to connect with many company reps who were able to come into the OR, show you how to do wet labs, and then just try it on patients. But I think like any new procedure that any of us undertake, there is a mix of um, adventure involved. You need to you boldness, right? I mean, when you think about it, you're trying a new procedure on a human for the first time. Sometimes I do wonder if all of us are a little crazy to think that that's something we can do, but it takes that spirit and that passion to help your patients in order to learn a new technique. And
Mhm.
I thought that MIGS was something that could really help a patient. Um, and improve my surgical skills and stay current, right? I didn't want to miss the boat. I think probably all of us, and especially in private practice, I'm assuming may feel that way. You don't want to be the doctor 30 years from now using the same technology that you trained with in residency. I mean, we do have an obligation and commitment, I think, not only to ourselves but to our patients and to our field, to stay current and
Right.
and try and be leaders.
No, I think it's super important. If you're doing surgery 10 years from now, the same way you're doing it right now, we've made a mistake somewhere along the road. You
Yeah.
definitely got to keep advancing the skills there. Now, how do you approach a patient? And I'll tell you my approach first, but you go first. I'll tell you my approach after. How do you tell a patient, all right, this is new MIGS device. I've never used it before. I want to use it on you. How do you explain this to them?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I I'll talk to them about the device. I'll say that it's new. I don't always say that it's my first time, and maybe I should. I'd love to hear your take on it. Um, if they start to, I'll say it's a newer procedure that we're learning, we're incorporating.
Sure.
Um, if they were to ask, of course, is it your first time? I would be honest. But I would also say that yes, it might be my first time doing this specific procedure, but I also have done thousands
Right.
of intraocular cases. Um, and I've studied this procedure now, performed a wet lab, and we'll have people supervising me in the OR. So it's not to, I never want to hide anything, but I certainly want to make the patient feel comfortable that it's early on procedure, but I don't want them to have the nervousness that it's my exact first time, because again, we've still done, all of us have done thousands of intraocular surgeries. So it's a similar skill set. It's not like we're operating for the first time.
Yeah.
So I guess
Yeah.
that's how I view it. I'd love to hear how you approach it, because you're right. It's a very important and sensitive question.
Yes, it's got a nuance. I do something very similar. So I'll tell a patient, you know, I, I've been doing cataract surgery, front of the eye surgery, glaucoma surgery since by the time I had, no gray hair. And now I've got a lot of gray hair. And so I've been doing this a long time, tens of thousands of surgeries. There's a new device that's available that I think is especially good just for you. And so it's just, I've obviously done lots of surgeries. This is something new, but I think you and a couple other of my patients would be really well suited to this. Again, I don't have a huge track record of it because the device just became available.
Exactly.
And then the patient will say, yeah, I mean, of course, I trust you.
That's
And
awesome.
so,
That's a really great way to phrase it.
and then,
I
and
like
then
that.
we treat from the heart. So I will never do anything to hurt a patient. Every patient who walks in the door, I always think, all right, if that was my mom or my brother or my sister or my kid, what would I do?
Yeah, I agree. I think that is huge. Treat patients how you'd want to be treated, or your family members. And I do use that phrase a lot. Patients want to hear that.
I think it's just so true because you'll find, I mean, I think the majority of doctors in the community are really just good-hearted, treat from the heart, treat from the brain. But unfortunately, there are a small number of doctors who treat from the wallet. Like we've been there before. You go into like, oh, let me just get my teeth because I feel, this somewhat shady dentist like, you know what? Hey, we got to fill it. You have 18 cavities. You're like, what?
No,
And you're
I
like, wait
know.
a
That is
minute.
right. I think it's so important that we protect our profession that way and our integrity.
Right. But I think most of us, we just treat from the heart and we give the patients the best. And I think patients sense that. And so,
Yes, I think they do. You're right. They can sense, and that's why um, I really do believe in physician-run practices too, because I think we
right.
were able to lead more from the heart that way, and put the patients first.
Right. I saw a patient this week, 50-year-old, hemetropic, plano patient, 20/20 distance, totally healthy eye, just actually maybe plus a half was the refraction. Just wanted to have refractive lens exchange with multifocal or trifocal lenses to not use reading glasses. And I just said, I wouldn't do that to my own eyes. If I was exactly in your shoes, if you were he was a couple years younger than me. If you were my brother, I just wouldn't do this for you. Just wouldn't.
That's so honest. Yeah, and patients love that's wonderful. I
Yeah.
think that really resonates with them.
Right. I
Actually,
mean, it's
turning
one
them
thing to
down
have a
for
patient
surgery.
who's like, 70 and like best corrected vision is 20/50. And now you put trifocals or multifocals, they think, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever.
Right.
But when you have perfect night vision, you're basically emmetropic, no cataract, that your night vision will be compromised compared to today then.
Yeah, no, and it's so funny. We just actually had this conversation last night with about the emmetropic or plain old presbyopes coming in for RLE, and you're right. It's hard because they're very excited, they're frustrated with things, but learning to say no, I think is really valuable. They'll respect you more, and you're doing the right thing.
Hmm.
Because you're right, there's always risks. I do like to spend time with my patients, and sometimes I worry I might overly scare them. I certainly don't mean to be too negative, but I do always want them to know about the risks of surgery, right?
Of
Because
course, of course.
that's our job. They get excited, as they should be, about improving their lives and their vision, but it's hard. Obviously, they can't understand all of the possible ramifications. So that is our duty and our privilege to be able to tell them. And I think,
No, for sure, for sure. Now you were saying you were talking to some physicians last night. I do notice, like on your social media, you travel a lot to give lectures. Oh my
yeah.
goodness. You give lectures all the time, right? Even small groups or large groups, big meetings, small meetings. You do a ton of traveling. How do you balance that with the rest of your life?
Yeah, it's tough, but it's fun though. I mean, I like traveling, so that's a win. I like getting to network and speak to colleagues. I find that very fulfilling. I think actually one way I got into this was because after graduating residency, when you're in residency, you're so stimulated, right, mentally.
Right.
You're having lectures, grand
Oh
rounds,
yeah.
you're with professors, attendings, colleagues. I mean, it's really fun. And then when you get into private practice, if you don't, go into an academic institution or you don't join a large group, which was my case, I joined a small solo practice. Uh, there's a sudden like void
Right.
of mental stimulation or collegiality in the real world, so to speak.
Right.
So, after a couple years, I went to my first ASCRS meeting and connected with people, and I realized that in order to stay current and, really do well in my field, like you said, there's so much to learn.
Mhm.
There was no way that I was going to be able to survive only, using what I knew from residency. And so, although I enjoy speaking and I hope others learn from me, I really learn also
Oh,
from the
sure.
lecture that I give, from my colleague, from the audience, from the panel. And so it's like constant education. It's almost like a residency replacement in a way. And mixed with the traveling is fun, and seeing different parts of the world, and having a true family unit. I mean, as you know, like in a lot of the meetings we go to, there's many repeat attendees, and you form a real bond that you wouldn't otherwise. Because it can be lonely in private practice. When
Right.
you're on your own, right? It can be lonely, and so I think it's really fulfilling to be
Well,
able
one thing I
to
really
travel.
admire about you and Bill, your husband, is how when you go to a lot of these meetings, you'll bring your son, Danny. That's like amazing. Now, his like the majority of the adults he knows now, your son, are ophthalmologists. So that's
I
like
know. I know. It is a little scary and sad. I think he has more ophthalmologist friends than 6-year-old friends.
right. And I think that's super smart of you. Just like, you know what, we'll bring the family unit. Let's just go. You come with us.
Yeah, that's important to me. I mean, I think with both of us being in that field, I wanted him to be included and just be part of our life, and I don't know, it just meant a lot to me. I knew that I wouldn't be able to travel as much without bringing him.
Right.
We'll have to figure out as he gets older, I know, and he gets more of his own life, how we're going to handle that. That's something that
Yeah.
I've been a little worried about. Especially when the school told us this year that we took him out of school too much, even
Uh,
though he's in kindergarten. Apparently, kindergarten is the new like ninth grade or something.
yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, kinder.
It can be challenging, but yeah, it's also fun now because he's 6. And when the kids are 6, they really love you. But take it from me, when they hit like 13, 14, not quite as much love.
No, exactly. Yes, I remember you telling me that actually many years ago, even before I had a child. And I remember actually one of the things I first remember meeting you about was, I think it was Caribbean Eye. I think it was a Caribbean Eye meeting, and you actually really inspired me. You said, obviously you're a super busy surgeon, super famous, and busy at meetings. But you said, my kids are an age where I need to spend time with them. Like I
Yeah.
really want to focus on them. I don't know if you remember that conversation. I'm sure not, because like I was like a newbie at the time, but And you said, I'm making it a priority, and that they really need me now. And I thought that was really wonderful. And I think it takes a lot of strength, internal strength, to put maybe what you want aside to focus on your children. But I think it's the right thing, because you're absolutely right. They're not always going to be adoring you as they are when they're 6. I've seen that from other people's families, and actually Bill's older kids, everyone goes through a phase, right? Then they get busy with their own lives, and then they're not available to go with you to the next meeting.
Right.
So that's why I'm trying to, watching my friends and families, and Bill, even with his growing children, seeing the phase of life that, yes, when they're 6, they may adore you, but when they're 16, they have their own life.
Right.
And so I just want to really appreciate that time.
Oh, well, I thank you for saying that, but I mean, it came not from wisdom on my end, but rather from me being stupid. I spent many years when my kids were younger traveling the world, giving lectures back in the heyday, and my kids were like elementary school age, and I missed out on so much. And then one day I just figured out, like, oh my God, I'm missing out on their lives. What am I doing? And then I talked to Dick Lindstrom, who I always looked at him as a big advisor, and he said, spend the time with your kids. He says, ophthalmology will still be here. You don't have to worry. So I actually did like 6-7 years, no eye meetings. No eye meetings, nothing. I still wrote my column and do whatever a little bit, No, I didn't. Anytime there was an opportunity, I take my kids on a trip. And so one of the highlights was when the kids were like 10 and 12, we did a family trip to Europe for a month in the summer.
Oh,
right.
That's
And then
amazing.
now my kids are grown up and gone. They live out of state. They're both in med school, but they're out of states. I see them once or twice a year. And so I'm so glad that I finally came to my senses and spent that time with them, because you're right, now they're gone.
Yeah, that's so wonderful you did that. And you really inspired me. I really remember that conversation to this day. And
But just so you know, it wasn't from wisdom. It was from my stupidity that I learned the other way. Like, wait a minute, I need to just stop with this stuff.
But you figured it out in time, right? You figured it out in time. That's the thing.
I got many years in there. I got many. And then, once my son went off to college, then I was like, all right, now I can do whatever I want.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
basically I started CataractCoach in his senior year of high school in 2018.
Oh, okay.
And so that's when I'm gonna start cranking. And then he's gone.
Okay.
He's at that point, right? These kids are 16, 17, 18, whatever, 19 years old. They don't want to hang out with you.
Right, exactly. They're too busy with it. Right. And that's actually the nice thing, that you have a fulfilling career, right? Because that is hard for people that don't have that, and then their kids grow up and leave. There's many years that we're on our own. So it is, when you look at the grand scheme of like your child's life at home, it's so short. And so yeah, I think it's important that we focus on that too, and really cherish those times. So I'm glad you did that, and I hope I can sustain that as well and keep that going with Danny.
Well, your challenges are just coming. Kindergarten's easy. Wait till like junior high or high school to come home with some math. I still remember my son would come home with like some calculus. Like, can you help me with this? I'm like, I have no idea. So now I was like,
I'm scared of that.
Right. So I got out of it by saying, I already did 11th grade and I did a great job. Now it's your turn.
I've heard that line before. My dad used that on me. So that's a
He's a smart guy. and then I hired a tutor.
Right, that's smart.
What do I know?
Well, now you can do ChatGPT, so that's what I'm going to fall back on. I'll just be like, here's ChatGPT to teach you calculus.
It's so interesting. A different world now. Different world. And then just like, even with that, the advancements in AI in the last couple of years, unbelievable. So what's your guess? Where are we going with this?
It's really taking off. I mean, obviously that's an underwhelming statement of what I just said. I mean, it's huge. I even have I had a patient who was probably in her 60s or 70s and in love with ChatGPT. I mean, it's hitting all generations, all ages. I mean, I think it's going to become so much a part of our life. I hear my staff members that do have older children, more in older grades, saying that ChatGPT is helping tutor them. You can even use ChatGPT in the practice. My office administrator uses it now to like make her emails sound better. And I've started to. I kind of have thought like jokingly, like, man, I need like ChatGPT in my brain to tell me how to live my life. Like there's so much guidance from ChatGPT. But it's exciting, but also a little scary. I don't know how teachers are handling this, how anything can be considered your own work anymore. But I think just having the big data sets, having the AI will help us hopefully in our field too, because our field is so
Right.
numerically based, right? Like practical outcomes. I mean, I think just that I'll really incorporate. And I think also other exciting avenues I've heard too is providing better patient care, right? Like and there was something on Doximity that I saw recently that it says like, oh, just tell us the subject and it'll create like a nice patient education handout. Just a snap of your fingers. I'm like, that's really cool. I'm going to work on that, and maybe better come up with questions and answers for patients, so it's not as repetitive, and patients can get more assistance quickly. And there's even
Right.
like phone systems now where they can talk to the people, so it's cool.
Yeah, I think in ophthalmology there are certainly a lot of uses. A group that I'm involved with, led by my good friend John Lattis, we have 2 patents in AI regarding Lenscalc USA patents.
It's
And so
amazing.
it's really that he was very like prescient in this, and he really figured this out a decade ago. But we're going to get,
Yeah.
I think, reading our diagnostic things, OCT readouts are going to come with like, here's not only the picture, here's the read.
Yeah. That'd be amazing. And your lattice formula is amazing too. I do remember it was the first AI. I remember like learning about it and using it before I even knew the word AI.
Yes, our patent
So,
actually covers a wide range, and so we're currently actively looking to license that to some of the bigger companies. So
okay.
time will tell. But I think it's interesting. I had a patient recently who I said, "Well, how'd you find me?" Because I always ask, like, "How did you find me? How you referred to me?" And usually my practice is mostly word of mouth. And the patient said, "Oh, I just typed in ChatGPT. Who's the best cataract surgeon in Los Angeles?" And it says you. So I just came.
Oh my gosh, that's
Wow.
so cool. What an honor.
This like 70-something-year-old is using ChatGPT to find the best cataract.
See, I told you they do use it. Like just everyone uses it. The
I was impressed.
70-year-old,
I think we have
80-year-old.
a lot of ways to go. It's obviously getting better and better. But I also saw something else interesting. I saw this on online where they put the Declaration of Independence into an AI detector to see, is it like, did you write the essay or someone else did? And it said the Declaration of Independence was 99.9% chance AI. I'm like,
What?
wait a
Okay.
minute now. Wait a minute.
That's just how good our founding fathers were.
I think. I mean, it's just
They
so.
were
But
just such good writers.
obviously, I think a lot of the big things in ophthalmology will end up being solved. I think there's a new. I'm working with a company now that does fully automated robotic cataract surgery, which is
Heard of
really
it.
bananas. So like the robot,
Oh,
you're learning. It's learning from every case.
that's amazing. Now, what do you think of it? Do you think it's something soon to be developed, or
Honestly,
how close are
you
we?
can't predict the future, but I mean, the robot is so much better at reaction time, right? Like if I'm let's say a 200 millisecond reaction time. And coming up
Mhm.
is the Miami Formula One race. Maybe we just had it. The fastest reaction time, let's say Max Verstappen, 100 milliseconds. Well, the robot can be 2 milliseconds, right?
Yeah,
And then we detect things like this video. I will render 30 frames a second, and it looks fluid to us.
right.
The robot can pick up things that, like, instead of 30 hertz, it can be 100 hertz, it can be 500 hertz. A robot can integrate the OCT image in real time with the video image and always know where the capsule is. So they're like,
Right.
they're really wild. And then we can drive the robot, or the robot can all do certain steps. It's automated. And if you look at LASIK, like you do LASIK now, the femtosecond laser does the flap. What did you do? You lined up the eye? Okay,
Mhm.
laser can do that. Then
Still kind of hard.
you lift the flap, right? And then
Mhm.
for the excimer, what'd you do? You turn the tracker on, so track the eye at 500 hertz, and it goes, and
Push the pedal.
you put the flap down. So isn't that already like 90% robotic?
That's true. I'm sure a robot could lift the flap
Right.
pretty easily.
It could for sure. One of the challenges though is like with the robot, the robot could do incredibly accurate intravitreal injections. Take the burden off the surgeons. But
That's true.
the problem is with individual injections, I think we as surgeons made the mistake where the drug company gets 95% of the Medicare payment and we take 5. So who's going to pay for the robot? I bet you it's not going to be the drug companies.
That's true. And I wonder if the robot's work will be more valued than ours. I do wonder.
I mean, but
The
also
robot
like,
may have a better chance than us.
right? But also like your airline pilot, you can have autopilot, but you still have to have a human to like look over it and also take the liability.
That's true. Yeah, I guess there is a human at the end of every robot, so to speak. So for now, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
not.
But actually in LA now, on the west side of LA, we have these Waymo cars, Waymo, which are driverless, fully automated, like robotic taxis.
No, I've heard of those. Yeah, do you see
Yeah.
them driving around?
Yeah, all the time. But it's only certain parts of
wow.
LA. Only certain parts of LA, like the west side of LA, which is like the fancy part of LA.
Oh, okay.
Like Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, Brentwood, that kind of area. I see them all the time. I will, if I drive through like to my surgery center in Beverly Hills, I will see at least a handful of them every time.
Wow. And have you ever gotten in one yourself? Like,
No, I haven't yet.
Like, how do you get one? How do you get one?
Well,
You just call, is it like an app or something?
There's an app, and you just call it, and you can sit in it. So it's a little bit, it's a little strange, but I'm just wondering at the end, is there a human who takes the liability at the end? If there is an accident or an issue.
There's an accident. I know.
Yeah.
I know, and it's interesting. It's probably a little bit lonely just to jump in an empty car too. I wonder but yeah, no, I guess how much do you trust it? Like,
well, that's the whole question, right? That's the whole question.
Yeah, because I'm sure I've been in Teslas, you probably have too, where they have that self-driving feature. It's pretty amazing, but I still don't 100% trust it, right? Like, I don't know if I'd relax.
Yeah, so I have a Tesla. I'll drive a Tesla today to work, and I will sometimes use autopilot. I like it for like stop and go traffic.
Yeah. Okay.
When we're moving at like 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, I don't want to trust my life to it right now.
Right, exactly. Like that's where I feel the fear. Although ironically, I'm sure robots are better at driving than humans. I don't know why I trust humans more, but yeah. But no, I agree. That's like right. It's kind of nice when I've seen it, so it helps you turn, and you don't have to be as focused. But it's hard to like let go of control, right? So yeah, I wonder what patient perception will be of a robotic surgery.
Well, I think sometimes we may be even forced that way, because right now for the U.S. population, let's say 350-ish million, maybe more, we only train 500-ish ophthalmologists every year for the whole country. Mm-hmm. And so the total ophthalmologists in the country is probably like 19,000. Mm-hmm. But every year more ophthalmologists retire than start. So our numbers are actually shrinking. And so we'll get to the point like, okay, I mean, who's going to do all this work? We're going to have some help for it. Yeah. And if you look at the number of things done, like number of intravitreal injections is probably coming on 8 million, 10 million a year in the US, some crazy number. Cataracts is 4 million a year in the US. LASIK's maybe 600,000-700,000. And so we would be like in the UK where you have a nurse practitioner doing the injections, individual injections. Yeah. But then again, if you've never been in an eyeball, do you really understand the anatomy?
Right. That's true. Yeah, it's definitely a daunting task, and hard to answer. I think there's some places that actually are having nurse practitioners already here doing injections, but I could be wrong.
I'm sure it's within their scope, but the question is like,
right.
You know, most of the injections that I see in LA are done by my colleagues who are vitreoretinal surgeons. I trust that he or she knows really well the anatomy.
Yeah. Right. And also can manage the complications.
That's right. And I'm not worried that there's going to be a puncture of the lens capsule.
Right.
But in someone who never done an intraocular procedure, do you really understand it?
Right. So no, it's definitely a daunting thought about the numbers, the population aging, our numbers of ophthalmologists dwindling, and yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Hopefully our colleagues will have the foresight.
You're helping out, obviously. You and your cohorts, they're starting a residency program, which is very helpful. But again, that's 3 a year. And for our international listeners, we have a lot of international listeners. In the US, there may be 100 plus residency programs, a little more than 100. And then the small ones tend to be 2 residency a year, maybe 3. The largest, UCLA was 8, or still is 8.
Okay, that's good.
Dallas Southwestern, and Wills Eye Hospital is 8. Dallas Southwestern, I think, is 9. And I think the biggest now is Mass Eye, which is 10.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indiana was 6. We were 6 when I was there, which is considered pretty big, but
Right.
not as
Because
big
I
as
mean,
some of
these are
these other
generally
ones.
pretty small overall. So that's why
Yeah.
every year, I think the total number of residency spots has grown a little bit over the last few years, but it's still somewhere around 500-ish.
Why do you think that is actually? Is it funding or just the concern that we
Oh,
don't like there's not enough volume? I mean, that's what's a little
but
puzzling to me.
there's plenty of volume. But the catch is, well, who pays for it? So
Okay.
the
The funding issue.
Medicare right now pays for the residents. Medicare will pay a big chunk of money to the university or the hospital for your residency. Typically, with a
Mhm.
hospital, the university will get 1/3 of the money and pay that to you as a salary, and keep 2/3 of the money to teach you.
Okay.
But the number of those Medicare funded spots is limited. So if you say, look, we have so much volume here, instead of 8 residents, we want 12 residents a year.
Right.
Okay, who's going to pay for the other 4? And usually the university sometimes has a hard time finding funding.
Got it. Okay. So it's really a funding issue then. Yeah. And then I know there's also the concern too that if you don't graduate with enough cases, right? Or
Yeah.
exposure, then you're not going to be as skilled. But it's interesting with the growing number of patients in the population. I mean, you would think that problem might be solved. There must be more opportunities for experience.
Right, but for a good
I don't know.
example, I think the ACGME, American College of Graduate Medical Education for the U.S., it's 86 is the required number of cataracts in your entire 4-year residency. And so that's not hard to achieve. And then a lot of
Right.
programs where you're going to do a multiple of that, 200, 300 or more cases. So then the question is, well,
Mhm.
why not expand it a little bit more?
Right.
So it's a kind of complex issue there. But then the crazy part is like a hospital may hire a nurse practitioner or a PA and double the residents' pay. But even though doesn't have the same skill set.
Yeah, that's true. That is definitely a blow to the gut, so to speak,
Yeah.
when you're a resident. Yeah,
Well,
and you're
anyway,
seeing
getting
everyone
back
else
to
get
the
paid
original
more.
point, I think this all comes together. I think we're going to use AI to get more throughput, to help more patients. There are going to be
Mhm.
fewer and fewer of us ophthalmologists. That's just kind of the nature of it. Unless we do a better job of convincing the young people like Danny, hey, my parents would joke to me, they're both passed away. They were both physicians, but not ophthalmologists. They would say to me and my siblings, when you guys grow up, you can be any kind of doctor you want, anything, but any kind of doctor.
Yeah. Well, right. Doctor was the key word.
So for Danny, like Danny, when you grow up, you can be any kind of ophthalmologist you want, even retina, even plastic.
Yeah, so really, I like how your parents really slipped that in there.
The little,
It's
little
like
bit of
it
the
was like a
Asian
little
parents
gaslighting. You didn't
brainwashing.
even know.
I
You didn't even
didn't
realize.
realize.
It's like you were being corralled into, right? I'm sure you've seen those memes like, "You're not a doctor." You might have like invented something, but you're not a doctor. There's some of the more
Yeah,
traditional parents.
yeah, all fun
Yeah.
until there's that big element of truth in it.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, there's definitely an expectation, right? Especially when you come from a doctor family
Yeah.
that you're going to be a
I
doctor.
think we're so lucky. I think you're like me. I'm thankful every day to be an ophthalmologist. We got the best field in
Mhm.
all of medicine. We do amazing things. Our patients say thank you every time we do their procedures. We're just blessed.
Yes.
We're totally
No, we
blessed.
really are. And I think it's great to acknowledge these moments because sometimes in the, day-to-day grind,
Right.
it's easy to forget. You get tired of things and patients complaining and wait times, but you're right. It's wonderful. And I'm glad you're doing these podcasts to take a step back and realize how blessed and lucky we are because
Right.
there's so many other professions that really aren't as valued,
Right.
and you don't get to give back as much.
Right.
And patients remember us, I think. I still hear many patients talk about a doctor from back in the day, and that's
Yeah.
really special.
Oh, for sure, for sure. We also do these podcasts because I want some young ophthalmologists to be inspired by you. What you've done truly is really amazing. You really are doing it all. I mean, and the tasks sound simple, but they're really hard. Starting a practice, oh my gosh, the hardest thing. And then also getting on the podium, getting your name out there. How hard you work is people sometimes will see the output. Oh, she's on the podium again. But they don't see the input. How much
Mhm.
effort actually took
Yeah.
to do So you're a true inspiration. I want to thank you for doing the podcast, but I promise you, there will be countless young ophthalmologists who will listen to this and say, you know what? I want to be like her. I want to do this. And they can. And I bet you they'll reach out. And you're so sweet. I bet you if any young ophthalmologist emails you, you will reply back.
I do my best. Yes. I'm always happy to help a mentor. And I tell people if I don't reply back, text me, call me. Sometimes I miss an email, but I do want to be supportive and, give back to all of those who have mentored me. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. I think you're doing amazing things, and keep up the good work. I cannot wait to see what you do in the next 5 or 10 years. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And remind our listeners and viewers, remember, we got a new Cataract Coach podcast every single week. We got a new Retina Rounds podcast also every single week. New Cataract Coach video every single day. And now a new Retina Rounds video every single day. So until next time, I'll catch you later.